Sup, dude? If you didn't already know, I'm a white guy. Excluding being mean to my mom or shooting my classmates, I fit many white guy stereotypes. My worm isn't huge, I've punched a hole in my wall, I played lacrosse growing up, and I have the vertical leap of a paraplegic. That last one has always made me envy those who can jump high, because if you can jump high, you can probably dunk, and dunking is one of the coolest things anyone can do. Out of all cool things, it's about as cool as being able to play the Freebird guitar solo. Not many things are cooler than that. I'm no meteorologist, but if you can shred Freebird and dunk, it'll be raining bitches, or actually it might rain dudes. Nevertheless, my point is, dunking is sick, and in this video I'll be telling you the story of the greatest dunker in NBA history, Vince Carter. Born in Daytona Beach, Florida, half baby, half amazing, was in the lab since day one. Before he could even sit up, his dad and uncle would put him on the bed, prop him up with pillows, and they'd play catch with a Nerf basketball. The little dude loved it so much that when he was a toddler, everyone around his neighborhood knew him as the kid who constantly chucked up shots at his hoop in his driveway. He always missed until one day, as toddlers do, he flopped down onto the ground but got back up and sunk his first shot ever. Fast forward to his freshman year of high school, the now 6'1", 14-year-old was the starting point guard for Mainland High School's varsity team. It was around this time when he sorta got his first dunk. Right before practice one day, he palmed a volleyball, leapt into the air, and punched it. Sure was with the volleyball, but just a little while later, at 15, he got his first in-game dunk after catching a pass from his best friend, slicing down the middle and throwing it down. The kid was a freak of nature. At 15, I was too busy playing with my worm to be able to dunk. What's crazy is Vince's talents weren't just limited to basketball. He also played football, volleyball, saxophone, trumpet. He was an honor roll student. His senior year, he was the drum major for the marching band, and believe it or not, he also liked writing poems to the ladies. Gifted in many areas, he could have gone down whatever path he wanted, but by the end of his sophomore year, it was clear what he was meant to do. The dude had just averaged 19 points and 8 rebounds, which resulted in mail from every D1 school you can think of. Being such a hot commodity, he took his time deciding where to commit to. Eventually, 2 years later, after he won Mainland a state championship, he finally made his decision. That decision was to go to the University of North Carolina, which was fitting because people were starting to call him the next Michael Jordan. He was 1995 Florida Mr. Basketball and a Parade All-American first team member, but the dude didn't see the court a lot his freshman year. The 19-year-old forward averaged just 18 minutes, 7 points, and about 4 rebounds a night, which isn't bad by any means, but he definitely wasn't going to the NBA yet. Like Mike, it would take until after his junior year to be league ready. By then he was 21, fresh off averaging 15.6 points a night while shooting nearly 60% from the field and 40% from three. Over the course of his 3 seasons at Chapel Hill, the dude showcased superstar potential. He had everything: a perfect body handle, jumper, playmaking ability, athleticism, and in close he was a rhino with the jetpack. Pretty much every game he wowed the crowd by throwing down an oop or putting some poor soul on a poster. His incredible abilities made NBA GMs salivate. It was pretty much a guarantee he would get picked in the top 10 of the 1998 NBA draft. Lo and behold, with the 5th pick, the Warriors drafted him but traded him immediately to Toronto along with some cash in exchange for the 4th pick, which was Anton Jamison, aka Vince's former teammate. The two played all 3 years at UNC together, and Anton was actually seen as the better player. Vince was the Robin to his Batman, but Toronto preferred Vince, so they didn't mind trading down and making some money. Also, the year before, they drafted his cousin Tracy McGrady straight out of high school. The now 19-year-old was a work in progress, but like Vince, had everything needed to be an all-time great. In their first year together, T-Mac was good, but Vince was a freak of nature. He hosted his own in-game dunk contests pretty much every night and converted over 60% of his shots at the rim. Along with that, his Swiss Army knife scoring translated, with the exception of his 3-ball being pretty iffy. By the end of the season, he shot just below 30% from deep on around 1 attempt a night. That wasn't a major cause for concern though. Overall, he was outstanding. He won Rookie of the Year over guys like Dirk and Paul Pierce with averages of 18 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and a block and a half a night. With his frame, athleticism, and skill, superstar was written all over him. And in just his 2nd year, he became one. As a sophomore, his scoring average jumped all the way from 18 to 26, and he hit 40% from deep on 3 attempts a night. This earned him his first All-Star selection, and he also got invited invited to the dunk contest. While he played well in the All-Star game, it was the dunk contest where he etched himself into history. It was quite possibly the greatest performance ever. To start things off, he threw down a reverse 360 windmill, which gave birth to the Shaq holding a camcorder meme. Then he followed it up with another windmill, a wild bounce between the legs, then he fisted the hoop, and finally capped it off with an almost free throw line dunk. People were losing their minds. He did them all effortlessly on his first try, easily winning the contest. By the end of the season, he was named an All-NBA third team member and booked a trip to his first playoffs. While up to this point he was kicking ass, the playoffs were a different story. They matched up against the third seeded Knicks led by 100-year-old Patrick Ewing. In this series, Vince became half man, half shit. He shot tour dates and they got swept, which definitely wasn't ideal, and then T-Mac signed with Orlando in the offseason, which also wasn't ideal. It was okay though. Vince's future looks bright, and it looked even brighter after the show he put on in the Olympics. Over in Sydney, he led Team USA to a gold medal while scoring 15 points a night, which is by far the most on the team. Their second leading scorer was Kevin Garnett, who averaged a whole 4 points less. Vince got his 15 from everywhere on the court. He drilled shots from behind the arc in the in-between area, and he punched the rim like it called his mom fat. For one of his many dunks, he literally grazed his ball sack across the top of a 7'2" guy's head. It makes Blake Griffin jumping over a key look like child's play. His momentum from summer continued into his third and arguably best season. At 24 years old, the dude upped his scoring to 28 points a night and came pretty close to taking Toronto to the promised land. In the first round of the playoffs, he continued where he left off from the season prior, shooting tour dates, but he picked it up in the final 2 games, winning both while averaging a super efficient 30. Moving on to the second round, they faced off against the Philadelphia 76ers led by Allen Iverson. This series was one of the greatest ever. Both Vince and AI balled out. Between the two of them, they dropped 350 bombs, 2 of which were AI's, but in game 3, Vince went nuclear, shooting 9 for 13 from behind the arc, 19 for 29 in total, and he secured the 24-point dub. After that, AI grabbed the series by the balls, leading Philly to wins in game 4 and 5, taking a 3-2 series lead. It wasn't looking good for Toronto, but in game 6, Vince pulled a near 40 bomb out of his ass and forced a game 7. Then he made a very questionable decision. On the day of game 7, he decided he was going to attend his college graduation ceremony, then fly back to Philly for the game. Many people thought he was really dumb for doing this, and they turned out to be right. He ended up not playing very well, shooting 6 for 18 from the field, and at the end of the game, he missed the potential game-winning shot. AI and Philly went on to make it all the way to the finals, while Vince and Toronto entered the dark ages. Although just a little while ago their future seemed to be bright, it was now hell. The next 3 seasons, Vince dealt with injuries, missing a bunch of games, and he couldn't bring the Raptors back to the playoffs. This led to Toronto trading him to New Jersey, where he played at an all-star level for only a few more years. Then by 2009, he started gaining weight, regressed into a role player, and turned into one of the association's blunts. New Jersey traded him to Orlando, where he lasted a season and some change. Then he played for Phoenix, Dallas, Memphis, Sacramento, and finally he closed it out at 43 in Atlanta. The way his career turned out was not at all how everyone expected it to. People thought he was going to be a GOAT level player, but he never got there. According to Gilbert Arenas and many others, he was just too nice. He didn't have a mentality like Kobe or Jordan, which resulted in him underachieving. On the defensive end, he was never great. Things went downhill right after his third year, and by 30, he was a shell of his former self. Whether he really was just too soft or people's expectations were too high, he was still amazing. He had the longest career ever. He's the best in-game dunker ever, one of the best three-point shooters, one of the clutchest, and arguably he could have won a lot of championships if T-Mac never left him. While the second half of his career he got a bit heavier and became more of a shooter, he was still an important piece to many different teams. The ability to space the floor can extend a dude's career quite a bit. Along with Vince, Al Horford proved this by getting a ring and many bags through his late 30s. You can click here to watch the video I made on him. Thanks for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed. Bye, dude.